Good morning, afternoon everyone. Welcome to today's WTG webinar session. My name is Louise and I'll be moderating today's event. Our topic today is diversity hiring, how to unlock the untapped potential of social sourcing and innovation. And will be presented by Gurpreet Bamra and Mike Beresford. Before we begin, please let me quickly explain the various tools available during today's session. So this session is using audio broadcast, so you should be hearing me through your computer speakers or headphones. If for any reason you have a problem with the audio, please send me a message via the chat box to the right and I'll be able to enable your call-in details. You may have also noticed that you can only see your own name in the participants list, as well as your own chat messages and messages from the panelists. And this is due to the purposes of privacy. Again, there's many of your peers and colleagues joining from around the world. If you need any assistance, please contact me through the chat box. And if you'd like to pose a question to the speakers, then please use our question and answer box. Simply just type your question and we'll do our best to get through as many questions as possible. Okay, so this leaves me with nothing more to say but to welcome today's presenters and to hand over the floor. Mike, you are now live.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for our webinar. So just really wanted to explain what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to be going through an overview of how you can utilize strategic sourcing methodologies to enhance your candidate pool. Gurpreet and I work for Allegis Global Solutions. Allegis is the largest privately owned independent recruiter. We are recognised as a leader in RPO, MSP and statement of work solutions and operate across 60 countries. And we have a large team of people who sit behind the scenes and ensure that we're giving our clients as much support as we can to focus on their talent acquisition strategies. Gurpreet is one of our experts in strategic talent acquisition, and as I say, we're hoping that today you'll be able to take away from the call a number of innovative solutions which will help you build the strongest talent pools possible. So just to cover off a few key things which I think are important. Diversity is something that I've been very passionate about for some time now, and I think there's a perception in the UK that we're tending to do a pretty good job and we're leading the way with diversity transformation. Most organisations have diversity and inclusion at the top of their HR agenda. There's a general recognition that having a really solid diversity approach is a real competitive advantage. And there are a number of areas where we've seen real improvements in recent years. I think we'd all agree that the approach to disability in the workplace and in the general populace has improved significantly post-London 2012. I think that the media and general public perception around LGBT related issues and acceptance in society has improved significantly in recent time, but it's very clear that there are still a number of areas where significant improvement can be had. Equal pay for women and the roles of women in role of women in senior board level positions is still a long way to go, although it has, it's noted, been improving over recent years. But I think there are a number of other things that we're going to start feeling pain around. The changes to pension rules and reduction in final salary scheme is driving retirement age up. The removal of compulsory retirement at 65 has meant that there are going to be an older working population, particularly in the UK. And so we need to ensure that we're approaching the market for talent in the right way and looking at the right candidates and providing our business leaders with the right choices. So on that note, I'll hand over to Gurpreet, who will take you through some of the strategic processes that we utilise with our customers to help them attract a more diverse candidate pool.
Great, thank you very much, Mike. So moving on, I'm going to be talking through the ways that you can implement your strategy and some of the techniques that you can be using in your organisation. First of all, wanted to talk through how diversity and inclusion can impact business results. So McKinsey have done some research in the UK recently, and they have found that for every 10% increase in gender diversity, earnings before interest and tax has actually risen by 3.5%. They've also revealed that companies in the top quartile for gender or racial and ethnic diversity are more likely to have financial returns above their national industry medians, and this goes for a lot of our regions globally. According to Catalyst, companies with female CEOs tend to experience better financial performance. And also adding other dimensions of diversity such as LGBT have found to be good for businesses by increasing value, productivity, and profitability, among other benefits. So when you are looking at putting a business case together, if that's the stage that you're at of your diversity strategy, some of the findings of the recent research that's been conducted shows that some of the benefits of including diversity and inclusion into your workforce is improving financial performance, you are able to leverage top talent, you can reflect the marketplace. So most of our customers, our clients are very diverse. It's very important that our teams are reflecting the businesses and the world that we work in today. You're able to strengthen your brand, increase innovation, and adhere to changing legislation. So on that note, we know that we have a lot of changing demographics in the UK and across the world as well. So just like our world, our work environment is becoming increasingly diverse. So it's really important that we acknowledge and influence diversity of talent within our organizations. The previous slide, we talked about some of the benefits. So it's very, very important that we're leveraging this talent that is available to us. The other point that I wanted to highlight is that by bringing in diversity and diverse people into our organizations, one of the largest benefits that businesses and organizations have found, and we found this within our own organization, is that it actually increases the diversity of thought and perspective. So when we are looking at how we represent ourselves as business, and when we are talking to our clients and some of the processes that we are trying to either implement or change within our organization, we have found that the fact that we have very diverse perspectives and we have different people coming to the table, we're able to not only leverage their experiences and their backgrounds, but we're able to increase some of those financial returns and the performance improvements that we are looking at. So the next stage is really to identify the gaps in your organization in terms of which type of diverse communities you really need to be attracting. So these are some suggestions of maybe where you would find in your workforce that you might need to look at hiring different types of diverse talent. What I would say is that when you're looking at this strategy, have a look at the different levels within your organization. So whether that's senior level, that's lower level, and look at those particular gaps and pay attention, because they may not be the same within a lower level than they may be at senior level. For example, you may find that, as a lot of businesses are at the moment, you may find that you need to focus on hiring more women or promoting more women into senior level positions. You may find that at a lower level we need to increase LGBT or find people from different socioeconomic status. So identifying that is important because it's not a one-size-fits-all. And then also having a look at different departments within your business, depending on how large your organization is, and really reflecting on what particular diversity strategy is going to help to really raise the status of that department. So it could vary between different parts of your organization.
Okay, fantastic. So this leads us on to our first poll question. So what area of diversity is your biggest concern? So we've got gender, age, religion, disability, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, or none of the above. We're just going to open the poll now, so you've got a minute to submit your responses. So it would be great if you could get those in for us. We'd be very interested to see what you have to say. just give you a little bit of time to submit your answers. So just on the right-hand side in the bottom, if you'd just like to select your answers, that would be fantastic. Okay, so we've just got another 30 seconds for you to get those answers into us. You can see a lot of you already have, which is great. And we're now counting down to the last 10 seconds. Okay, so that's great. And I think we are ready to move on.
Okay, so thank you for that. So it'll be interesting to look at the results of the poll. One of the things that we wanted to cover off was the approach that you should take and what you can think about from the point of view of where your business is currently and where you can influence decisions. So I suppose there are 5 things that we've highlighted really that you should think about. And the first is exactly that it should be a strategy and not just a project. You need to be honest about where the organisation is on the road to creating a diverse workforce. It's not a short-term fix. We need more women on the board, so let's go and hire some. It's about where are we going to get to? How are we going to work with the organisation to change the culture and look at the benefits it will bring from a strategic perspective? So if we look at that and set it as an objective, let's think about where the business needs to be in 3 years' time, not now. Set some long-term goals and think about our attraction strategies across the entire portfolio of talent, from middle management down to junior support staff, the people that will form the seniority of your structure of your business in the future, and build that as the plan rather than a short-term fix. To do that, you've got to convince your hiring leaders that this is an important aspect, and it's about making sure that they understand the value of a more diverse talent pool. It's not just a case of ticking boxes, it's a case of giving them an opportunity to identify that the portfolio of individuals that exist in society can provide a huge array of talent. And if we make sure that we're providing as recruiters a clear visibility of the talent pool available, they will have the opportunity to pick from that talent pool and use the benefits that brings. When we're using recruiters, either internally or external recruitment organisations, it's important that those recruiters feel that they are on the hook for delivering a diverse talent pool. It's not just about speed to market all the time. So if there are going to be particular projects that you need to address, particular areas of your organisation that you need to address, then let's make sure that the recruiters understand that they've got perhaps a little more time to find a more diverse talent pool and put those candidates together for you. And importantly, as I said at the beginning of this slide, it's not about a quick fix. This is a strategy. It has to form part of a review process. It should be a board agenda item. It should be something that's coming on a regular basis, being discussed with the senior hirers, senior exec community, to make sure that they understand how important it is to the business to drive forward the solution.
So unconscious bias is a pretty big topic, and it is very, very important to look at this when you are setting out on your diversity hiring agenda, because everyone has biases. And I think this quote really sums it up in terms of how we carry these judgments and these biases, but obviously we're not aware of them, and overcoming them, and only by being aware of them can we then really start to look at how we hire diverse talent and maybe changing those perceptions and those preconceived judgments that we sometimes have, particularly when it comes to your hiring strategy involving hiring managers in unconscious bias training, having your recruiters go through that journey. It's vital that you look at this as a strategy, because when you are trying to hire diverse talent, and some of the roadblocks that you can face further down the line are that because we have unconscious biases, that it can be difficult to bring those people into the organisation, that may well be very well skilled, will be qualified, will be very talented, but because of our biases, we overlook them. And I think that this is a really important hurdle to overcome. It's also a very interesting journey to go on, and to go and roll that training out. So I cannot stress the importance of going through this enough. It is crucial to making sure that your strategy is a success. So when it comes to recruiting members of diverse communities, and when I've been training some of our sourcing teams are globally, some of the questions that we face from our teams, our hiring managers, I thought I put together some questions for you all to see that, you know, some of the questions that you might face from your hiring managers, there are some very simple answers and solutions that you can give them when you're trying to overcome some particular challenges. So first of all, you know, one of the most questions that we get asked is, how do we know that our candidates are diverse? And it's a tough question because unless you have a very visible diversity, it is difficult to know that. So we're not asking people to, or your recruiters to ask others to ask them to self-identify what diverse community they're from or anything in particular, but by having an awareness of diversity, of the different types of people that are available in the talent marketplace is really, really important. So just encouraging that awareness within your organization will help your teams to really identify those candidates. When you're looking for top talent, are you going to sacrifice top talent for a diverse candidate? And this is a question that I've heard a lot. Sometimes a hiring manager will say, well, is this really what we want to do? It's not that you want to sacrifice top talent, it's just that you want to recognize that talent comes in all different forms. It may not be necessarily what we think and an idea of what we have when we start in the process, but it's just to consider that there are a lot of options available. And then the last one is we have to make quick decisions. I don't have time to develop relationships in new communities. Often recruiters do not have time to be proactively developing relationships, and hiring managers likewise. So I think you have to, as Mike said earlier, think about the long-term strategy and the gains that you're looking to get from this, and why it is so important, and then involve yourself actively within that strategy. So talent is getting more difficult to find. I think it's something that we can all agree on. You know, we've all heard about the war for talent. According to LinkedIn's recent Global Talent Trends report, 70% of the global workforce is now passive talent. So that means that 70% are possibly open to new opportunities, but they're not actively seeking them. These people will not be on job boards. They're not likely to be actively applying to your jobs. So it's an important statistic to bear in mind, especially when you are trying to hire diverse candidates. So with that in mind, you just need to look at how you change your approach accordingly. So in this section, I'm going to go through some talent attraction strategies and tools that we use, and hopefully give you some ideas on what you can be doing when you are trying to reach out to candidates. So at Allegis Global Solutions, when we look at our strategic sourcing strategy, we really look at all of the channels that are available in the market. We look at exactly what we can be using at what point. So when we consider that 70% is passive talent, 30% is active talent, it's really about what channels can we be using and how can we reach those candidates more quickly, and find those people that we really need to hire. So we'll take a success profile, we'll explore the market, we'll explore our options and our tools, and these are vast, these are not limited. There are a huge number that we've probably not included, but as an overall strategy, we look at what's available and then produce candidates and put them forward to the hiring manager.
So one of your strongest areas of recruitment is internal referral. And that's going to come from a number of different areas. And one of the things we think you should be thinking about is how you're actually working with your own internal staff, your talent you already have, to help attract a more diverse candidate population. And also think about the message that that sends out to your business. And also to the external market about your brand. So it's worth looking internally and asking yourself whether you already have advocates within your business that could be challenged to form diversity panels, to actually become part of a team to help consider the challenges that might be faced by members of the more diverse community within your organisation and support them. Also have a look at whether your organisation has partnered or registered with some of the external diversity support networks, such as Radius, Stonewall, Disability Forum, and WA, which is Wise Age, which focuses on supporting over 50s back into the workplace. Because those organisations are not only hugely supportive on a day-to-day basis, but arrange really fascinating seminars and webinars like this that will provide you with new insight and innovation around how you could attract a more diverse talent portfolio.
Okay, fantastic. So this leads us on to the next poll question. Let me just open that up now for you to submit your answers. So the poll question is your business currently partnering with any diverse networks or organisations? So we've got yes, no, or previously. Again, if you could all just submit your answers via the box on the right-hand side, that would be fantastic. We've got just over 40 seconds to get those responses in. I'll give you a little bit of time to submit the answers. So we've got A, yes, B, no, or C, previously. Okay, that's great. If you could just keep those answers coming in, that would be fantastic. Again, I can see a lot of you already have. Just 10 more seconds for the poll question. Okay, that's great. I think we're just about ready to move on.
Great, thank you. So moving on, looking at your advertising strategy is really around attracting active talent. So one of the things that you can be doing is actively looking for job boards that will help you to reach out to people from those diverse communities that you're trying to attract. So we've listed some of the job boards that you could potentially consider. There are literally hundreds more that you can be using in your diversity strategy. But I would really recommend having a look at where you're advertising and how you're reaching out to people. And at the same time, when you put your adverts out on job boards, you'll also be putting your brand name on those boards that will be instantly recognized. Some of the tools that you can also use as part of your strategy, there's a really great gender bias tool which will help you to look at how you are wording your adverts and change some of those words that you're putting in depending on what type of talent you're trying to attract, or if you're trying to be as inclusive as possible, on the other hand, then really looking at how you eliminate some words and how you make that so it's not gender specific. And also, if you are unsure in terms of which job board to use, or you need some more information in terms of their visitor demographics, you can use a site like Alexa.com, which will give you great statistics into visitor profiles and specifically gender, age demographics for those websites. Social groups is a really important one to be leveraging. So social groups you'll find in a lot of different places. You'll find on a lot of social networks. This is just one example that I pulled up from meetup.com, which is an offline social forum where people will host groups and they'll meet based on their hobbies and their interests. And it's interesting that you will also have groups that are related to businesses, that are related to specific interests, such as Women Who Code. And I've got some examples there of the kinds of communities that you can be finding. You can also find them from different locations globally. So with the example that I've got here, it's just Women Who Code, and you've got some more information on how to reach out to them if you wanted to build a partnership with them, if that's an area that you're looking to hire for. You can follow their hashtag, you can be involved in their conferences, you can also have a look through their members and do some more specific sourcing. So there's a lot of options available when you're looking through Meetup and looking through some of these communities. The other thing is to use, and that you can leverage, is forums. So again, it's just a couple of examples on some IT tech forums. And again, when you're looking for, as an example, if you're looking to hire women into the IT space, then there's some techniques that you can leverage. So again, I found the Women Who Code community on GitHub, and what I would do is then find people who have signed up to that, who are interested in that. You can find ways to contact them. Stack Overflow is another great website you can be using. There's very, very different ways that you can use to source for candidates, but at a very basic level, I've just shown you, just typed in girl, and again, you can find many different profiles for people who are interested in specific types or elements of IT. And then also have ways that you can reach out to them. You can view more information and see what they're interested in. So these people, it's important just to note that these people may not necessarily be active on LinkedIn. They may not be searching for your job, so they may not be applying for job boards, which is why it's really important to consider, especially when you're looking at attractive passive talent. So social networks a lot of businesses are trying to understand how to leverage social networks, and one of the things that I often hear is how difficult it can be to navigate your way through them and understand exactly how you can be reaching out to communities. And there's often a hesitancy to leverage a tool like Facebook, where we think that it should be perhaps be kept more private and LinkedIn is more for professional networking. But you also need to consider the demographics. So Facebook is the largest social network. Over 1 billion, 1.5 billion people now registered. It makes sense to be leveraging that network, especially when you're looking for diverse talent. So I've put some examples here of how you can be using Facebook, and you can be searching through communities, you can be searching through groups, you can put in keywords, and it's a really, really great way to actually find people that you're looking for with a specific job title. And similarly with Twitter as well, using a tool like FollowerWonk, where you can find people's bios, you can find them based on their interests and what they're tweeting, but also finding them based on their job title. So, for example, here we're trying to hire project managers who also have an LGBT background, or maybe from that diversity community. Then that gives us something to focus on and try and find a way to contact those candidates. Conferences and speakers, I think Mike mentioned earlier, they're getting involved with some of the other external organizations. It's a really, really important one when you're considering how to move forward with diversity strategy, and you need to leverage external expertise. So actually attending conferences or trying to find speakers, or even sending your hiring managers the speakers sometimes to those events can really pay off. And I've just put some examples here again from Women Who Code. Just on their website, I found some events that they are going to be hosting that, if that was what you were looking for, you could go along and attend. Lanyard and Eventbrite, they're part of the same company, but with Lanyard you're able to source and find specific speakers. What I would say is when you're looking for diverse talent, you're looking for passive talent, and sometimes you're looking for a certain specialism, or perhaps you're looking for high-profile candidates. Think about what they might be doing. Are they the kind of person who might be speaking at conferences? And then leveraging something like Lanyard and trying to find them will help you in that strategy. And again, Eventbrite will help you to find conferences, to find events that you can be attending, or communities of interest to you, so that you can then explore them further in other social networks. And then the next section is hashtags. I'm a really big fan of searching through hashtags. It has become part of our makeup now on social networks. It is very, very easy to find content through searching through hashtags. a lot of the conferences and events that we have spoken about, they will often put out a hashtag that you can follow online. You can follow people who are tweeting about it or wherever they are. But I wanted to share some examples of how I would use hashtags to actually source for diverse talent. So recently there was a trend for I look like an engineer. A lot of female engineers were posting their pictures, were posting this hashtag on Instagram, on Pinterest. And similarly, I look like a surgeon, then took off. And then there's also, as I said, conferences will often use hashtags, so hashtag Oracle Finance helped me to discover hashtag Women in Tech. So it's about thinking what conferences are using in terms of hashtags, who's tweeting, can we be looking at their profiles, and also getting creative and just thinking outside the box in terms of what hashtags people could be using. If you're bold enough, if you feel creative enough and you have a social media policy, you could also be creating your own hashtag and trying to set up a new trend where people are following that, and then you have people to source talent from. Okay, so moving on to Boolean strings. When you are looking at particularly attracting diverse talent, and there's a couple of ways that you can also do it. So Boolean has been, it's a really, really great way to source through websites and to actually leverage the language in that a website like Google will use, and actually help you to search for the specific queries that you have and narrow down the websites and the results that you want. So there's a couple of examples that I've put here of how I would use Boolean to help me in my searches. So there's ways that I could look for diverse organizations, and I could focus on finding those diverse organizations. Then that would take me to helping to find people who are interested in those organizations. You could do a nationality search as an example if you were looking for people from a different race or a different ethnicity, and helping to find that information through their resumes. A lot of people do upload their CVs and their resumes through Google, through their personal websites and their blogs. And because Google will index that, they'll index a lot of documents, they're relatively easy to find. You just need to know what keywords to search for and what people would put on their profiles or their CVs to help you find those results quickly. And images is a really good one, especially when you're looking for visible diversity, such as gender or ethnicity. And this is a search that I've just put together to show you how we would find different profiles. So this is a search I've done through Google to have a look at LinkedIn profiles. All LinkedIn profiles are public, so you can access them through Google. And I've just done this through Boolean, and then I've clicked on images, and I've just put, for example, I'm looking for a financial analyst in London, and if I was looking to hire a female in banking, for example, I found lots of images of women, and then I know specifically I can easily go and find them and reach out to them for that role that I'm trying to fill. So the other thing that you could also try doing is diversity talent mapping. And one of the things that we look at for hard-to-fill positions is really how we go about attracting those diverse candidates, or those passive candidates, and where we can find them, and proactively building those lists of talent. So this is an example, and you can use something very similar in your organization in terms of building lists of candidates and how we can be reaching out to them and where they are available, and getting your team to think about diversity as a long-term strategy and think about it as proactively as they can, so that when they have requisitions coming up in the future, they are able to pull in diverse candidates and quickly put them through for interviews. The other thing that you can focus on is actually using intelligence and labor analytics to help guide you on your diversity strategy. So one of the things that we use is a really great tool that shows us, what the demographics are in terms of where we're trying to hire. It could be based on a specific skill set. It could be based on a job title. And we get a lot of in-depth information that can help guide us in terms of, if we're trying to hire in this location, what is the supply and demand for that talent? And what does the diversity look like? What organizations can we be targeting to find that talent? So something to also consider when you're looking at your long-term passive strategy, and also and presenting that to hiring managers and to leaders, and showing what you're doing and how you're going about finding talent. It's often a great conversation piece in presenting this information. So I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about branding now and the importance of it. So external messaging is critical when you're looking to hire diverse talent, and what you say and what you are putting out about your organization will really help candidates and help talent to understand if your organization, if your company culture is really one for them. And that's probably one of those important things when you are hiring people, more than their diversity, more than their talent, is, are they a fit for our culture? Is this person somebody who's going to fit in with our organization? So using the imagery, using mediums such as videos, using text or whatever you have to leverage, really think about, does that reflect where your organization is now? Does it reflect where you need your organization to be in terms of the diversity strategy that you have? And if not, can you update that? Is it something that you need to be looking at and making sure that you prioritize? Because your website, your social media networks, wherever you are online, is going to be somewhere that candidates will automatically look to when they are trying to find out more information about your organization. When your recruiter reaches out to them about a job, for example, they'll go onto your recruiter's LinkedIn profiles. They'll visit profiles for hiring managers, different people in the company. So thinking about that external messaging is so important when you're trying to attract talent. The other thing that you can be leveraging and you can also be thinking about is putting together a compelling story. So when you're looking at your brand messaging and you're looking at what that looks like from a visual perspective, in terms of the text and what your people are saying about your organization, what your recruiters are saying, what your hiring managers are saying, does that compelling story really reflect where your organization needs to be? Or maybe does it reflect your company culture? If you believe your company culture is passionate about hiring diverse talent, then is that reflected in the messaging that they are giving? Is it a consistent brand message that you're sending out? Is it something that recruiters and hiring managers are aligned so that your candidate has a great candidate experience and they really feel that they are either able to fit into the company culture or they understand that the company culture is not for them? And then just moving on to social media. So we talked about external messaging and the importance of looking at your career site. In terms of social networks, you need to have a review really where you are with your social networks. It could be that you're quite advanced and you have profiles on a lot of different social networks. It could just be that you only have a Facebook profile, for example. But are you really maximizing that? Are you really putting out the right messaging that you want candidates, you want talent to really understand about your organization? And I think a lot of that piece of the visual imagery and then the compelling story really ties well into this. And also when you're looking at social networks, it's also really important to understand what are the demographics behind those networks. So for example, when Facebook started up and a lot of businesses slowly started joining, people had company pages, it was really around attracting graduates because we understood the main demographic user base of Facebook were school leavers, were graduates, were university students. But it's also important to note that that has slowly changed. I think while the main user base is still largely graduates, there are also a lot of older people, mature workers on there. And, you know, when we look at where the UK is in terms of an aging workforce, is Facebook a tool we can be leveraging to pull those people back into work and to look at how we can be utilizing their skill sets and how we can be adding them to the workforce? You know, if your strategy is around hiring women, can you be using Pinterest, which is largely, you know, its demographic user base is largely women? If you're looking to hire, you know, school leavers, or you have a graduate attraction strategy, could you be using something more innovative, such as Snapchat or Vines, and how could you incorporate that into what you're trying to do? So it's really important to think strategically about the social networks you're using, and I think not every social network is going to deliver the results you're looking for from that talent attraction perspective. And not even just when you're looking at sourcing, but when you're looking at your brand messaging, is that, you know, what you really need to be doing?
Okay, so this leads us on to our final poll question. So let me just open up the poll question so you can submit your answers. So the poll question is, do you have a diversity council? And the options are A, yes, B, no, or C, don't know. Again, if you could just submit your answers via the right-hand side, that would be fantastic. Just got just under a minute to get those answers in. I'm sure Allegis would be very interested to hear your answers. Okay, another 30 seconds on that. Okay, that's great. Again, a lot of responses coming in, which is fantastic. Just the remaining 15 seconds. Just pop those final answers in for us. That would be absolutely fantastic. Okay, and I think we're almost ready to move on.
Great, thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, so there's also a couple of tools that I wanted to just add into the mix that you can be looking at or potentially leveraging. So first of all, Unitive is a great tool, very innovative, and it looks at how you are attracting diverse talent into your organization. It can help you from very early stages in terms of your job description, what your adverts are looking like. It can help with interviews and the interview panels, and it can help you throughout the whole entire hiring process. So it is a great website that you can be looking into. Gap Jumpers is the next one, which is also pretty cool in that it hosts blind auditions. So it really helps you to identify who the best talent is, or, well, not even who, but where the best talent is and what does qualified look like. And it helps to remove the bias from that hiring process. So, for example, if you had a woman take this test and you could show your hiring manager, you'd show her as qualified if that's what came up in the test. And it would help your hiring manager to make those decisions around, you know, what qualified looks like, and trying to help remove those biases through that hiring process. So measuring success is a really key part of your strategy. And like any sort of strategy, you need to review how far you've come and really look at it as that long-term strategy in terms of how far you've come and then what you need to do to move that further along. So staying in touch with candidates is an idea. You could be leveraging that once your candidates join your business, talking to them, talking to hiring managers after they're hired to review how the strategy was, how their experience was, and it could also help to improve retention. So not only will you get feedback on that process and what happened from their perspective, but it also helps with their retention and feel that they are more valued and feel part of the organisation. You could create diversity scorecards, which is great to leverage when you are trying to present or even look at your metrics from hiring perspective and look at how you have increased levels of diversity. So creating those scorecards to share with your leadership team and share back with your business in terms of how you have been working to achieve a more diverse workforce. Demonstrate ROI from events or different approaches. So, for example, if you do decide to partner with some organizations and you're attending events and there may be a cost involved, demonstrating the ROI from that. So just really looking at how you can put that in a positive light and shine some success on that. Using tools such as Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is a free tool that will help you to analyze the visitors to your website and in terms of who's clicking and where they're going and where the visitors are coming from. It may be that your career site already has something like this that you can be looking into, but if not, it's not difficult to set up, and it will show you where your users are coming from and who's clicking on what, and it will help you to understand people coming from different social networks or what's really happening behind that process. So it's a good thing to consider when you are looking from a social media strategy perspective. Reviewing metrics such as quality of hire and interviews. So looking at that and looking at if you've hired diverse talent, how that has impacted quality of hire. Analyzing your cost and ROI. So sometimes there will be a cost attached, such as your job board strategy, but really analyzing those and just looking at the return of those is important to just review. And social media statistics. So it could also be vanity statistics, but it's still important to review. So has your brand messaging, has your compelling story, has different strategies on social media, has it increased your followers, has it increased people retweeting you or liking your posts, and what has been the success of that. And then any feedback that you're getting, reviewing that, and then making some of the changes that you need to really help tweak the process along the way so that you are looking at really hitting those goals that you have long term.
Okay, so hopefully we've given you a lot to think about today. I think probably just to sum up, we feel there are probably 4 key things that you should take away from this briefing and review after the call. So the first is make sure that your hiring leaders are aware of your strategy as an organisation. Make sure they understand the value and that you can gain their buy-in so it's seen as a real value to the organisation and help to identify the return on the investment of the activity. Remove the unconscious bias for both the hiring leaders and your recruiters, and that's going to come about through training, through communication, through sharing success stories. And just to give you a little bit of feedback on the polls, the first poll that we had around your current challenges in relation to your diversity population and diversity attraction, the number one by a long way was gender. So I think a lot of the things that Gurpreet has talked about today around identifying talent and using some of the tools from a social media perspective to help drive that will be extremely relevant to those of you that have voted as gender as being a challenge. Disability and race then followed that as other areas that needed attention, closely followed by age, and then religion and socio-economic mix being the next area for concern. So very interesting, though, that gender was such a significant outlier as a major challenge still. Reviewing your external messaging, that brings it to a head, really. Making sure that the market understands what your environment is like, what your business is like to work for. Think about how your message is being communicated, not just by your marketing department, but by your staff. How are they presenting the business on social media? What do they put on LinkedIn? What do they put when they're sending out their LinkedIn profiles? What are they putting on Facebook about their day at work? because that can be an incredibly positive and equally negative message if it's not managed well. And that's just about being open with communication. And finally, really working with your suppliers. And it's not just recruitment companies, it's also consultancy firms that you're working with. Any organisation that comes into contact with your business should be considering how diverse their talent portfolio is and how they're working with you as an organisation. So really bring them to account on that. Hopefully that's given you a lot to think about today, and obviously we'd be more than happy to take questions now. So I think we'll hand it back to you now.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you, Mike. So let's wrap things up with our question and answer session. If you do have any questions, like I said, please do submit them into the question and answer dialog bottom at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So we've already received a number of questions, so let's get started with our first. So first question, can you give a specific example of where diversity can provide specific business benefits?
Yeah, I think one area that I've always been very aware of in my role in sales in real terms is how important it is to have a diverse pitch team. So it's on two fronts. One is if you turn up as a sales team at a client presentation and everyone that's attending is like me, white, middle-aged, then that sends out a pretty specific message about your organisation. So having a diverse talent portfolio, having a group of people pitching to a customer who are from different backgrounds and different diversity portfolios will enable you to bond better with your customer. Equally, if you're going to market with a broader portfolio of people, you will be putting a message which appeals to a broader portfolio of customers, which will make your brand and your products more attractive to a wider portfolio. That's one example I would give.
Okay, great. That's fantastic. So let's move on to the second question, and this one's quite interesting regarding social media. So question is, our business has banned social media. What can I do?
That's a great question. So what I would say to that is really looking at what the benefits are and presenting that and putting a business case together to whoever the approver is. It is something that we've seen in a lot of organizations, that there is a hesitancy to use social media, but really understanding what the benefits are and challenging that, I think, sometimes is just the mindset. I think people have a fear of the unknown and what they don't know, and generally a certain perception of social media. But there are a lot of benefits to it, and it could be that your organization may not change its stance on everybody using social media in the first year or so, but even just asking for access to your recruiting team, for example, and actually owning that process from that talent attraction perspective. So, your marketing team may well have access to social media and presenting your brand out there, but your recruiters are able to really position that from a different level and understand how they can be leveraging that to attract talent. So presenting that as benefits, explaining that 70% of the workforce we know is passive talent, and it is incredibly difficult to find people just through job boards, just through LinkedIn sometimes can be difficult. So, if most of the talent these days is in different pockets on social websites and, further into the deep web, it's about how do we access that talent and how do we get there before our competitors get there. So, especially when you're looking to hire diverse talent, what are we doing that's going to take us to that next step and take our business to that next step? I think there's some really important points to consider.
Definitely, it seems there's a lot of benefits of the use of social media for hiring. So I've got another question here. So how can we get more women to apply for our jobs?
That's a great question, and I think you have to first of all look at what is the package you're offering, and looking at your EVP on the whole. So again, it comes back to that external messaging, the compelling story, and some of the elements that you weave into that. And the EVP forms a huge component of that. So as women, for example, if you're looking to hire that particular diverse community, what are some of the benefits that your organization offers to them that's going to make them want to come into your organization as opposed to one of your competitors? Because the chances are that if you are not leveraging that talent, then somebody else will. So, for example, will your business offer, part-time opportunities? Are we, a lot of women taking maternity leave, they are trying to get back into the workforce, or they may have other responsibilities with children, etc. So what does your organization offer to support that? It's not just that part-time opportunities, but is there flexible working opportunities? Could they work remotely? How can your organization really help them? And maybe could they offer them training? Could they do something to try and build their confidence back so that we can get them back into the workforce? I think that's an important one to consider. And I think also the messaging. So, using a tool like the gender bias tool, exactly how we're wording our adverts, and sometimes we word them so unconsciously we're not even aware of what messaging we're really giving out. But that tool will help you to identify, are we putting out words that maybe resonate more with males? If you're trying to hire more females, could you change that? Could you look at removing bias from your hiring process using one of the tools that we've talked about today? Could it be just training managers? Could it be looking really at a deeper level, removing that unconscious bias so that you are then, once women are coming into your organization, once you are bringing them in using the compelling story, that they're not facing those barriers as soon as they're trying to get in through the interview process or they're not selected. I think there's a combination of things that you really have to consider to make that actually happen and to make it a success.
Okay, great. So some really interesting insights there, actually. So we've got time for one last question, and our final question is this. I work in IT. How can we approach agencies that we work with to provide greater diversity?
That's a good question. I'll have to take that one. So I think having been an IT recruiter for most of my career, it is quite a challenge to present a diverse candidate pool, and it's really frustrating as a recruiter if you're trying to find a more diverse portfolio of candidates in IT. We're all very aware of the challenge of encouraging kids to take courses at schools in STEM skills, and in particular to get girls interested in science and technology and computing. So I think the two things you can do is really ensure your business is seen as attractive to that talent community. Work with local schools, look at how you can work with universities and educational establishments so you can go direct and utilise your own talent attraction. But if you're still finding you're having to use agencies, then use them and make them accountable for the talent population that they're providing. One of the things that we talked about LinkedIn today, one of the challenges with LinkedIn is that generally an individual's LinkedIn community will be very similar to them. So make sure you're looking at the recruiters, the individuals that you're using, and look at the agencies in question. Do they have diverse recruiters who will have a more open view of the market and won't just go for the quick shortlist of these are the top 5 people I've found in the market? There you go. Give them a bit more time. Give them an opportunity to impress you. Set some KPIs around it and reward them in supplier reviews and feedback sessions that they've done well. They've delivered above and beyond what you'd expected from a candidate diversity perspective. And I think agencies like a challenge. Recruiters certainly are goal-driven individuals. So if you set some goals for them, I'd be very surprised if they didn't step up to the mark. Hope that helps.
Okay, yeah, definitely. A lot of interesting ideas there, indeed. So that concludes our question and answer session for today, and it's actually the end of the webinar session. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today for our WTG webinar session. A big thank you to Allegis Global Solutions and our speakers, Gertrude and Mike. Thank you for taking the time to deliver such an interesting presentation. So just before I let you go, a couple of quick points. So this session has actually been recorded and will be made available in 2 days from now, actually, and we'll send you the link that you need to access that. Also, please do take the time to fill out our post-event survey and leave your feedback. That's much appreciated. So again, one final thanks to our sponsor, Allegis Global Solutions, and all the live attendees. This session is now over. Goodbye and have a great day.